Hey, it's Carrie and it is part 3 of our Body-Mind Connection series. So in this mini course we've already looked at connectedness in our bodies. We've already looked at why it's important to step away from overthinking and how we can trust ourselves a little bit more. And today we are going to be looking at how forcing less and doing less can actually create more of the good stuff you'd like in your life. Okay, so yesterday I mentioned fascia. So that's the connective tissue which runs all the way up and down through our bodies. It covers our muscle fibers, our muscle bundles, the total of our muscle. It covers the ligaments and the tendons. Every bone has a fascial covering. Every organ, even your heart, has a fascia. Really, you are entirely connected. So, one of the things that I teach in the Body Geek Club is about how doing less can actually be better for you. We have been brought up with this idea that it's no pain, no gain. And then we have to hustle and we have to work hard to get what we need. And we constantly feel as though we have to expend effort. Well, I'm not entirely convinced about that, and I'll tell you why. The fascia, of which so much of your body is covered in, responds to really gentle pressure. Within every cell of your body, you have a thing called the Golgi apparatus, and it's like a pressure receptor. It can feel when it's being squished. Now, tightness and muscular tension is created by the fascia wrapper not letting go. So it's constantly under pressure. There's actually more stretch and contraction in fascia than there is in muscle. So you have all these pressure receptors in every cell which are going, I feel under attack. And your brain goes, whoa! It gets overstimulated and kind of shuts down. But when we treat the body with gentle pressure, when we keep that pressure steady over a period of time, we then flick the curiosity of the brain on. And the brain goes, there seems to be a situation here. Well, let's just monitor it and see what happens. So the pressure doesn't change. It stays light and even. And eventually the brain goes, this must be an internal problem. There's something we can do about this. And it sets off a whole chain of healing responses, which makes your cell wall change so that it invites in more fluid, it gets rid of the gunk, it pushes it all out. So then we start to get healing and we start to get a real cellular change in the body, which is awesome because that's long-term change. That's sustainable healing. Here's the other cool thing. When we treat the body gently and softly, we also give calming signals to the nervous system. Now, our brains haven't evolved as quickly as our society and our culture has. So our brain, in particular the limbic system, which is in charge of all those klaxons and alarms and sirens and all the, under attack, basically your fight, flight, freeze response, it hasn't learnt the difference between a deadline, a traffic jam, and a saber-toothed tiger. Which means the brain thinks there are saber-toothed tigers hiding behind every corner. And every single one is out to get you. Modern life also means that instead of seeing the saber-toothed tiger and responding, which is either running away, getting stressed, panicking, all of those things which send adrenaline around your body, set off a cortisol response, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to respond to that stimuli and then process it. We just move on to the next saber-toothed tiger, which is exhausting, as we see from people with adrenal burnout, with chronic fatigue. So the body just can't replenish itself. It can't find its base level of relaxation again. So it's constantly on high alert, wondering what it's going to be attacked by next. In the Body Geek Club, we take our breath work seriously. Well, not too seriously, I don't take anything that seriously, but we work with our bodies, we work with our nervous system. One of the common things I say when we are working together, self-treating, is on a pain scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're not even touching your body, 10 being it hurts so much you're on a freaking ceiling. We don't go higher than a 6. Why is that? Well, when we apply pressure without pain, we get the brain curious and we set off that healing response. We're not teaching the body that it's under attack again. So it becomes more friendly to us. It reciprocates our effort better. Today's little technique is a really good one for calming the body. And it's a muscle activation. So I use muscle activations to remind the brain of its relationship to certain muscle groups. It gets a synchronization happening again. This is probably the most important one and generally the first I teach people. And it's a diaphragm activation. The diaphragm is a sheet of fascia and muscle which sits underneath the rib cage, and as it moves up and down it acts as a bellows, drawing air into the lungs. The other cool thing about the diaphragm is that the vagus nerve is passing through the tissue around there. So the vagus nerve is in charge of calming you down from that fight, flight, freeze response. When we activate the vagus nerve, we get to switch off the stress and switch on the relaxation. And you can do it pretty simply. Now, what happens when we're stressed? Well, we tend to breathe shallow breaths, quick shallow breaths up into the top of our rib cage. We don't draw the breath down. What I'm going to ask you to do is see how deeply you can breathe, and you might want to try this lying down. So consider as you breathe in that you're going to keep your ribs still and you're going to actually breathe into your belly. And you're going to imagine your belly to be like a barrel expanding. And it's a really three-dimensional expansion. You're going to feel your back fill up, your sides fill up, as well as your belly opening up. And that's activating the diaphragm. Pull down to pull air more deeply into your lungs, to stimulate that vagus nerve. To help you do this, just rub here. So your sternum, your breastbone, is that bony line that sits straight down the middle of the front of your body. It's what your ribs connect to. And we're going to rub gently-ish. You can use a little more wiggle. We're going to rub down the sternum. And where you find tight, tender points, you're just going to stay there and rub a little more. Why is this good for us? Well, activating the diaphragm helps us to feel grounded. It helps us to get more oxygen into our system, and that regulates our bodies. Also, when we're in a state of fight or flight, when we're in that kind of stressed place, we tend not to use all of our body responses as well as we can. So our focus is on being able to get the heck out of whatever's out to get us, saber-toothed tiger, which means that things like our digestion suffers, our warmth of our fingers and toes, there's not as much blood supply to our extremities. So we want to rub down the breastbone, activating the diaphragm. Because when the diaphragm feels safe, the body feels safe. So we're not just surviving, then we can actually think about thriving. That calmness in your nervous system allows you to regulate your body better. Better regulation means less tightness, less stress gripping, better sleep. It allows you greater clarity and means that you can make good decisions more easily. So play with that one today. If you have a moment where you feel as though you are, just give your diaphragm activation points on your breastbone a rub and see if you can focus on drawing your breath down into your belly. Take a couple of minutes and then just check back in with yourself and see how you feel. Tomorrow is the final part of this mini-series, and we're going to be looking at a transformative tool called the Body Geek Club. So take care.